Oh, it's just Jord.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Little Nightmares theory video. I know, right, another one. And in this video, we're stepping away from Very Little Nightmares just for a moment, and we are going to be talking about the original masterpiece. But before we get into today's video, I'd like to take a few seconds to mention our sponsor, Amino. Amino is an application that you can download on iOS and Android. You can find my custom referral link in the description below with a direct link to the Amino download. Amino is a fantastic app that connects you to many communities like Little Nightmares, Very Little Nightmares, and many more. Make sure to follow me on my profile where you can see many cool things on the app, like bite-sized theories, character animations, and much more. At the moment, Amino have released brand new features for stories, and these are polls and quizzes. With the new polls and quizzes, you'll be able to interact more with my stories and get your say on some of the up-and-coming things. Thank you Amino for sponsoring this video. Now let's continue with today's theory video. But before we get into what I saw and some of the theories we can get from it, we have to talk about a few topics first, such as how I managed to get this information and also how it led up to getting this information. So let's begin with how I found it. It was a normal day on Discord, the usual was happening, memes were being posted, a bit of chatter here and there, and out of the blue, I get a request from Duck in the Discord about if we could do some data mining and find out once and for all if Six is in fact a girl, which she is. And as I was looking, I shared a few screenshots with Duck, ItsJustJord, and Consnade, I always forget how you say that, and ItsJustLM, and of course, Toddbot. Apart from Toddbot, it was thanks to these users that I began looking around in the data mine again, and specifically in this area. And what I found was so interesting in relation to Little Nightmares, it's amazing I didn't pick this up before. But apparently, I missed it completely, even though we've done lots of videos on the lady, heck, a whole video is even dedicated to her. But finding this gives us so much potential for theories, and even could explain a lot of things about the more in Little Nightmares universe. But with that being said, I must repeat what Dave Mervick has said before in multiple interviews and on socials and all things you find within data mines, etc, etc. And in short, it's that everything released in Little Nightmares is all we need to know as players. So even though this is actually in the published sellable game files that have gone shipped with the game, it isn't really intended for us to see, and once you see it, you can understand why. So, enough rambling like I always do, and let's show you guys and gals what I found in the file. So, what even is it? So, this animation is in fact an animation specifically for the governess, for the lady, and from some of the detail that we can see, we can work out a few things about it. So let's start with the obvious animation itself. So we can see the lady is in a position that you will find her at the end of the game with Six's story. This is where she gets eaten by Six, and then she slowly starts to rise, very slowly, pushing her arms and lifting herself from the ground. While this animation in itself isn't all too interesting, there is something that you wouldn't really see from the default angle. So let's move the camera around and look at her face. What's interesting is that we know the lady has a face and has always wore a mask, so it's very rare to find a facial expression, especially any that we can generally see within game and all these sort of character shots and all that jazz. Not to mention her actual animations never ever show any expression within them. But the really interesting thing about this animation is that she has a facial expression. It's interesting that they took the time to go out their way to make her expression like this. And with that being said, what do you think her expression looks like? To me, like completely shocked and horror. And I hint of a surprise, like I can't believe this is happening and where she is. Also, one of the other things that is very interesting is that the file name of the animation. Now I know I've said it before, but it's clear as day, as this information and animation is called Final Scene Wake Up. And I suppose the ultimate sort of question with all this is, imagine if that was intended for us to be something we could have found out. I mean, if you really want to go tin hat theory, you could probably say that, you know, maybe there's a secret ending no one knows about that you can only unlock through the certain specific sequences and all that jazz, which I don't kind of believe. But it is very interesting that it kept it in. And I think for me personally, the expression side of it is more interesting than generally just waking up. So, what could this mean for Little Nightmares? Why does it matter? Well, despite that they removed it but kept it in the game, it gives us an insight to how Tarsier Studios wanted to end it originally. Or maybe between Bandai and Tarsier they changed up the story in order to make it even more games in the future for Little Nightmares, or less. But with this being said, this opens up the story massively. Now I know I say this because it helps a few of my theories even in the comics. I mean, the biggest thing for me is, in fact, like I said earlier, this facial expressions and the animation in general. I theorized before that the lady was being controlled like most people on the moor, and there is another player at play here. And what's interesting is that these people, like the lady, must not be aware of what's happening, especially from the reaction in her face. Yes, the face isn't fluently animated and all that jazz, but the point is the animation of the expression on the face is blocked out, so it's intentionally meant to have been something. But something else that's interesting is that why would Six not eat her like she did to the gnome or the runaway kid? So why would the lady be any different, or is this the reason why it was removed? But with that being said, it would make Six not seem so bad in some sense. Of course, forgive the runaway eating scene, and maybe this could have all just been a way of obtaining power for Six. It also begs the question that if there was a Little Nightmares 2, or something along that line, would we see the lady in a completely different light, or maybe even play her, or see how she got to this position in the first place? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching this video, and let me know in the comments what you think. I know it's not probably the best scenario for like theories and whatnot, because obviously it's data mined and people have very different views about data mining stuff, but this is in the shipped product, so for me, you know, it's in there, but it's interesting to see what could have come upon it, you know. So let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm really interested to see your guys and gals feedback on this, because I am ecstatic with that sort of potential ending. But let me know what you think. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Make sure to share it with other people with the same interest in Little Nightmares. And remember to click subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And with all that being said, I wish you the best day, morning, night, wherever you are in the world. And I'll see you all in the next theory video. Bye!